Good enough, beautiful that we have online media, although there are two faces to the online media, to citizenship, journalism and what have you. But then it makes it easy for you, because if we look at our generation when we started, NTA was the only game in town for TV broadcasting. As such, you had to be a staff of NTA to practice television broadcasting. And as such, if you wanted to contribute to culture, you needed to find your way, either as an artist or a producer, staff of the organization, to promote culture. But online media today is making things very easy for us, very easy for everybody, in the sense that you can, in a little village, when you have small handsets, when you have small technology that can project the culture of that little corner, you don't need a large army of men to come around and power the OB or power camera. You are on into a veritable good surgeon that will give us all a sense of preservation of culture. Because if we were to look at what it was when we were young, we're only looking at those cultures, the cultures that were predominant, those ones that you can visibly see around the city. We're not penetrating into the innermost corridors of our society. But today, you can penetrate into even the dungeon, not just innermost. You can penetrate into the dungeon and get results. So, as it is, for me, when I started, right, the season was political, was a season when NTA was the only game, but LTV, Lagos Television, started at that time. So I started with Lagos Television. Lagos Television was the only TV station challenging because the governor of Lagos then, LKJ, was challenging the federal government over the control of television broadcasting. And what were we doing? We were going into different parts of Lagos. Different parts. We had programs in Igbo, Yoruba, Awori. You know, Awori is a version of Yoruba. So you in Awori, even in Ijebu, because the Epe people, they are Ijebu people. So we were going into all those corridors. So as such, we are not just projecting Eyo. We are projecting Egungun. We were projecting the culture of the Egun people. I now come to look at my role as the producer of Feyikogbon. Feyikogbon was predominant in the whole of the West. I produced Feyikogbon for 10 years. I got several awards for producing that program. And if you look at it, we were looking at the different culture, the different corner of the Yoruba culture. We were bringing out the core of Yoruba culture. And as such, we were accepted across the whole of Yoruba land, including Ilorin. Because at that time, I was not in Ilorin. I was in Lagos. But they were playing my program in Ilorin, playing my program in Ibadan, everywhere in Yoruba land. Because we were, in a way, telling the story of the Yoruba people across Nigeria. So, as it is, the online thing, if we had it at that time, would have been better for us to have kept almost all those stories. Today we do not have them. Because it was expensive then. But most people who inherited, because at the time I became a manager, I was taken far away from Tejo Show was NTA Channel then. I was taken far away from Tejo Show. I was taken to headquarters. I was on Victoria Island. Those who inherited our asset, I mean asset in production, those who inherited our library could not value what we left, and as such we do not have them again. But if they were online, like I know Wonder Q, when this digital thing started, when the Star Times was coming and what have you, we had Wonder Cube. Wonder Cube was if we were going to transmit, you were transmitting and at the same time keeping your materials in a library. So now you see that technology has moved us away from wasting our energy. Instead of looking at a library where you keep cassettes, you now have virtual library. And by having virtual library, the culture across the country will be protected. So online media, yes, there are some issues, but I think the advantages, because today you can project your drama online. Today you can project your documentary online. And once it is there, it is kept. Right? So those days, if we were going to have backup, you needed to have 2 tapes. But today, you can, once you have your material online, it is kept. So I sincerely believe that we can project our culture and preserve our culture with online media. Okay, you have raised 2 areas: people, the youth. As it is, if we talk about the youth today, we say the youth today do not listen to message. They listen to beats. Meanwhile, my generation was a generation that appreciate anyway, don't we say was a generation. Our own generation is still a generation that appreciates message. So if we are now going to attract the attention of the youths into something cultural, what are those things that will attract the attention of the youths? If we say the youths today don't listen to message, but just the beats. Don't we have beats? Because today, if we say youth listen to beats, you watch, you still see that some youths are struggling to identify. Because even if you listen to the message of your music, that will say, okay, at least when you listen, at least one word. So if you're saying no message, it's just the beat, but that word is meant for something. So now and whether you like it or not, 70% of our population in Nigeria, we cannot trivialize them, the youths. So, and now you want to attract them. Attraction, you need to, because if you want to sell, it's a market. You need to mix their interests with your own interests. The interest about culture. What will fascinate them in this culture? Let us say if you're talking about Ilorin, we are always talking about religion and what have you. But there are certain things that the ordinary Ilorin person will identify with. The emirate. What are the beats of the emirate? If my target area, if my audience are located in Ilorin, if my area is just Ilorin, right? What will be the interest of that young person about Ilorin? Could it be historical? Could it be religious? Could it be the music? By the time an Ilorin person hears the emir, shehu, know how, right? By the time the Ilorin person hears the music of this, what do you call this, Kengbe thing, even if he does not want to listen, he will be attracted at least for a few minutes. And by the time you bring in the computer to play his role, yes, that is culture, right? It is not by saying, because if you leave it the way it has always been, because you have to be creative about it. If you're living it the way it has always been, you will want them to neglect it. You mix your interests. You are coming into a market. You want to sell. First, attract the buyer. When you now attract the buyer, then you now present that content that you want to sell. You now present. Then you speak and any cultural setting that does not speak, because we speak in English, that does not speak the language of the catchment area will not sell. So you need to speak the language of your catchment area. The identity, because in a way you want to promote the identity, like you want to talk about Ofa. You say Ijakadi Loro Ofa. Right? And that Ijakadi, when you look at it, that Ijakadi never happened at any time. But the thing is, when you say, because when you listen to it, it means it did not happen. That is the interpretation. But the actual of a person, dig that has never gone into dig into the interpretation and translation of that Ijakadi Loro Ofa, will believe there was a fight somewhere. If there was a fight and there was nobody to witness. So if you present that kind of a thing before an of a person, that person will want to, okay, you start to interpret that, okay, Ijakadi Loro Ofa. Okay, what about this Oro Ofa you are talking about? Oh, this Oro Ofa did not happen in the presence of anybody. You will attract the attention of even those who are old, because it is not everybody who is old that is kind enough to sit down to look at this cognomen. No. So as it is, so in order to sell, in order to attract them, you won't say 100% culture, because culture is even dynamic. Because if you say 100%, what do you call it? I don't know her name again. This one, Yaladuke. If you put Yaladuke and you bring Yaladuke with somebody, one young person within the environment who is a rave of the moment, there's that tendency that person that you think is just singing for the Western mind, at the end of the day, he is not coming out from an environment that is not cultured. So the culture within that environment would have influenced this music. Then to talk drama now, which is my very strong area. You look at African magic. Go and check the population of those patronizing the language channel. Go and check. The Igbo person will watch Igbo. The Yoruba person will watch Yoruba. And if that is what the language attracts the attention. We even go and look at a professor. He prefers to speak his original language. So now, if everybody prefers his language, if everybody wants to speak his language, it means whichever packaging you want to do, majority should be in the language of your environment. Audio